Sunday, May 20, 2012. This is Mercedes Diesel Guy, and you're looking at my 1993 Subaru Impreza. Just a kind of a very subtle kind of thud that went along with the wheel's rotation. And I listened, and I thought it might be the CV axle. Now, normally when these things go, they're pretty loud and they clack pretty bad. But this was a really, really subtle kind of noise, very easy to miss, and I only heard it because I kind of knew what to listen for. Once again, it was very quiet, but today I finally had a chance to look at it. Getting under the car here, and you can see here is the busted axle boot, and it's obviously been this way for a little while, but I can't leave the car like this. We both drive long distance, so I am going to replace this today. So I just went over to AutoZone to get this. They had a rebuilt one in stock. So so the first thing you do, which I actually just did, is you actually have to unstake the axle nut. If you look here, you can't see it because the impression is on the other side here, but basically the axle nut gets peened into this notch on the axle. And in my case, what I had to do was I had to get a hammer and chisel in there and just bend the axle nut back out. At which point I got a 32mm socket and a breaker bar on here, like so, and loosened the axle nut. So I don't want to get that too loose right now, so the next thing I want to do is loosen the lug nuts and then get the car up in the air. And there's one more thing you want to do before you get the wheel off. Now, I've got the car supported on a jack stand on this side, but the wheel is still on. So if you look down here, you can see that's the roll pin that goes through the axle into the stub shaft coming off the transmission. Now, you want this pointing straight up and down, and the reason is it'll make it a lot easier. I find that on the passenger side of the car here, it's much easier to knock that roll pin out from the top because you can see the catalytic converter running directly beneath it. Otherwise, you got to pull the exhaust. If you do it this way, you can leave the exhaust on and do the passenger side axle with the exhaust in place. The driver's side, it's actually much easier to access the roll pin from underneath the car. So now that I see this is straight up and down, I don't have to move the wheel. So the next thing to do is to actually get the wheel off the car. So this has actually gotten pretty bad. You can see axle grease kind of all over everything in here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to clean this up a little bit with some degreaser and a toothbrush so I can make some paint marks. Now, this top bolt here, now that I've got the grease cleaned off, you can see I made some paint marks there. I made 3 marks on the top one. With 3 there, it'll be pretty easy to align it back to the way it was, and 1 on the bottom, even though I'm pretty sure the bottom one is not an eccentric bolt, but better safe than sorry. So this is 19mm, so I'm going to get a wrench on here, an open-ended wrench on here to counterhold, and then I'm going to use my breaker bar with 19mm deep socket on the other side. Okay, those 2 bolts are out, so now you can pivot the axle out here for more room and remove the axle nut. After you have the axle nut off and pretty much everything else taken care of on the wheel side, you're going to want to knock out that roll pin, which I pointed out before and I'm having trouble focusing on right this second. Let's see if I can... Yeah, so you basically need to get a hammer and a punch on there and just drive that out. And I find that the easiest way to do that is actually to do it from the top and take the air intake hose off the car, which is easy to do. So I'm going to do that right now, knock the pin out, and hopefully the axle will come out easy. Okay, well, the old axle is out of the car, and you can see that's in really bad shape there. That CV joint was just starting to run dry, but we've got the new axle ready to go in now. I'm going to take this back for the core charge later. Here's the new one. New boots, remanufactured, all ready to go. New axle nut on this side here. Now I've got to wiggle this into place in the car. Just going to slip this onto the transmission there, knock in the new roll pin, and then bolt on the outer end here and connect the strut back up to the wheel carrier. Okay, as you can see, I've got the new axle in place. Have the new roll pin set. As you can see, I have the intake boot back on. Have the lower bolt and the camber bolt back through. The camber bolt is aligned to those paint marks, and I'm going to tighten up the strut bolts there. And if you give me a moment, I'll tell you the torque for that. These get tightened down to 98 to 119 foot-pounds. So I put them at about 100. And the axle nut here gets tightened to 123 to 151 foot-pounds, according to the manual I'm using. So I'm probably just going to split the difference and go about 135 on this. One last thing in case I didn't already mention it. Look here at the axle nut. You see I have that, it's not pretty, but it is staked in place. So it can't loosen itself up. And I have it tightened down to, 135, 140 foot-pounds. And the, and the lug nuts are torqued down. So this is all good to go. And that's it for this video.